This hammer has definitely seen better days. It's pretty rusty, the handle isn't in great shape, and overall it just needs a general revamp. I've been meaning to make my own blacksmith and grounding hammer lately, but I don't quite have the tools to forge out a full hammer billet, so we're going to do the next best thing and reforge this thing into the style that I'm looking for.
Alright, we're going to get this project started off by knocking out the handle. Like I said, it's not in very good condition, but I think I'll be able to reuse it later. But we're going to knock off the handle so then we can get the head alone so we can start working on reforging it. Going to knock off the rust with wire brushes. I like to use ones that attach to my drill bit head. They work really nice for getting into cracks and crevices. Now we're going to move on to actually forging out the billet. The style I want has more bevels on the edge, so starting off by hitting in some bevels. There were already a few of them in there, so I just kind of integrated the side ones in. Next thing I want to do with this is to use some markings in order to help me figure out which side is the rounding face and the flat face. That's just something I like to do in order to stay more organized in the shop. And also I think adds a little bit of a cool detail to the hammer. Now I'm going to flatten off the top a little bit, like I said, just trying to get a shape that I want to go for. And now I'm working on my favorite part, the bevels in the bottom. This is just a stylistic thing, doesn't really help with functionality at all, but I really like how it looks, and it kind of makes it unique and personal, you know, and that's kind of the point of reforging in the first place, for being honest. I used the makeshift tool of rounded off rebar for the bevels, and it worked out really well, just one of those things that I kind of came up with on my own. Now we're going to put in the touch mark. I always like to do this, it's fun to brand it a little bit. Let me know if you guys would like to see a video on how to make your own touch mark. It was a bit of a tricky one that I figured out a while ago. Now we're going to thermocycle the hammer, make sure that it gets nice and normalized so then the grain isn't funky and we don't get any cracks in the heat treat, right? Before we fully harden it though, I'm going to take it over to the vise. I want to clean out the eye a little bit, just to make sure that handle fits in really nicely when we redo that later. And then we're also going to grind out the faces. With a rounding hammer you have two faces, the rounding side and the flat side. The rounding side is used for spreading out and has a similar geometry to the edge of a circle, and the flat side is used for flattening and all your basic hits. Now it is time for the quench. We're going to get it up to critical temperature, and then I'm quenching in water today. Notice how I do a figure 8 pattern once it starts getting really cool. That's because I don't want steam to get into cracks and cause stress fractures, and it also helps cool the piece more evenly and quickly. Now we're going to do a quick file test, file skates, which means it's hardened, and then we're going to move to the toaster oven to temper this bad boy. I'm doing 2 hours at 450 for this one, should bring back the brittleness a little bit and make sure that this thing doesn't chip on me when I'm using it in the future. Now we're going to shift focus from the hammerhead for a little bit and work on the handle. I want to use the old handle because 1, it's a lot easier for shaping for me, and 2, it is recycling, so that's super good, right? We're going to start by grinding down the sides. This thing already is way thicker than I normally like to have my hammer handles. We're also going to remove a lot of the beat up surface material that's already on this handle, make it look nice and fresh. And then we're going to move over to hand sanding. I'm going up to 120 grit on this only. If you go too high on grit, it can cause blisters and stuff like that, and it's just not necessary with tool handles. Now we're going to make the slit for the wedge so that we can fit this bad boy up. And then what good is a wedge slit without a wedge? I'm going to make the wedge out of just a small piece of flat wood that I have. I like this because it's really quick and easy. And gets the job done really well. And now that we've got all the fitting stuff up, we are going to work on polishing up the hammerhead. I like to do a wire brush finish with all my tool heads. Makes them look nice and shiny, look really refined and polished. And we're also going to polish the faces off right now. You can kind of see the difference between the rounding and the flat face in these shots, so use that for reference if you're trying to do this at home. Now we're ready to go on the fit up. To get the head on, I'm going to start by pounding down on the anvil face with it, and then I'm going to actually hit the bottom of the hammer and use the head's inertia in order to move it up even tighter. Now we are going to wedge this up, use some wood glue on the wedge, and really drive it in there. I'm only going to use a wood wedge today. I think that metal wedges are great, but I think they should be a 2nd degree personally, and they also are something that you can use later once the fit maybe has deteriorated after a few years. And then we're going to grind it down, make it look nice and pretty, you know, and then we are going to fire the handle and make it look all burnt and stuff. This is an aesthetic that I personally like, but it also has some functional use. It kind of smoothens out the handle a little bit better, so that's something that also saves you some hand sanding, right? Then we are going to use some oil to finish off the handle, kind of preserve it from water and stuff like that, and it also really just makes that burnt look pop, in my opinion. Oil up the head too to prevent some rusting in the future. And one super epic transition later, we have a hammer that is ready to use in the shop.
Alright, now that we got this bad boy done, it's time to test it. And yeah, this is definitely something I'll be using in the shop for a little while. The handle's a little bit shorter than what I normally go with, but it's definitely going to be a functional hammer still. If you like this video, I'm going to throw up a link to when I took a bunch of rusted old scrap and turned it into a nice knife. Go ahead and watch that. Stick around on the channel. I've got a lot of other great videos. Like, subscribe, all that junk, and we'll see you guys next time.
Some of you channel regulars will know that I just tried out this new voiceover style today for this video. Let me know if you guys like it in the comments, and have a good one.